Well, Saskatoon, it's week 13. Put down your coffee cups. We got a few things to talk about. So it's 13 weeks, and the head of planning still cannot put up a real reasonable answer as to what accessory uses are at Prairieland Park and why they got a green light to do everything they want to that nobody else in the rest of the city gets a special deal for. The city solicitor had a part in that too, and they've made comments about planning. But more stuff took place this week that's kind of interesting as well beyond that. There was a pitch to the Planning and Development Committee about heritage designation. And what was interesting is that a whole bunch of interaction took place with the city solicitor, and specifically Cynthia Block. Councillor Block really had questions for the solicitor, and the problem is that the answers that came from the solicitor were based on information not formally presented to City Council. So now the precedent is that City Council can vote on information and make decisions without actually officially and formally receiving information first. That's the precedent they set this week. I doubt they're going to want to talk about it, and I doubt this solicitor is going to own up to the fact either that they did this, so they're going to try every which way. And I suspect too with the planning side of Prairieland Park that they're going to find some very interesting way to try to rezone that property quickly to make everything go away. So stay tuned for that. But there was talk this week about curling rinks and this long-awaited report since 2018 that Troy Davies has had his fingers in, right? Since 2018, multiple times. He was chairman. He voted so many times on this, and then he came out here not too long ago at a press conference for the press that he was going to do stuff to help curling. This very poor report came out that's got holes in it, not properly written at all, and is misleading. And even Charlie, Mayor Clark had to choke down a few things that they had done and mentioned that in this hearing. But nothing from Troy Davies. And it's kind of interesting because this is his baby, you would think. But, then he would have had to have actually met with the curling rinks. And he hasn't done that since he's been involved with the file in 2018. Not once. So while these politicians like to stand in front of the reporters and state that they're going to do something great, they don't do too much. So Councillor Hill, how much are you doing for the racetrack in Marquess Downs when you had your little press here in the spring and you were going to do something? Haven't heard a word from you. I do appreciate that you were trying to do a few things the other day, but back in 2019, you specifically stood up at council and said that I needed to write to you at the Planning and Development Committee because the city couldn't figure out how to draw a circle on their map, which is for the chemical buffer to show where people are safe or not safe. And I pointed out that your maps weren't drawn properly. And you were going to get to it, and you're going to get it dealt with. And it's 2021, and it's still not dealt with. And next week is the responsible care meeting for the community action program. So the general public might want to know where this buffer is since they live and work in that area, and they need to know where the safety buffer is that they have to shelter in place for. So how about you dig back into that, and how about you give a little press statement about what your findings were? And each time you city councilors want to talk to the press, you should be held to account later for what you've actually done on those things. And if you haven't done anything, it should be said. So people don't like that I use people's names, especially if they work for the city. Too bad. If you're a big manager at the city and you go to city council and you either give wrong or misleading information and you've identified yourself, you identify me as a person. You don't say a concerned citizen raised this request. You go right after me directly by name. And I'm paying your salary, so I'm going to go right after your name. And you start producing real truth. And when you've made a mistake, you say, I'm sorry, we actually made a mistake. We've rectified it and improve it. So when you state out for the public that Kerry Tarasoff is giving false information or misleading about the chemical buffer, but then produce no proof to myself or the reporters that requested it, that says a lot about your character at the city. And I plan to get a little further into that soon. So let's see if we can improve something at the city soon. The simple thing to be done recently would be to change the name of that silly street that you guys keep avoiding for all these decades. It isn't a big act, but it would mean an awful lot for people who are hurting. And I can't see why you can't get that done. So why don't you start there and we'll work down from that. Have a great day. I'll be watching what you're doing.